Hey guys, Zealot here, back again with another edition of Throwback Thursdays, and what I have for you today is the Playmates Toys WildC.A.T.s Zealot. And before we get into the meat and taters of this review, since I no longer have the packaging for this figure, let's first take a look-see at her accessories. Of course, she comes with her trademark twin cutlass-style swords. She always used these in the animated series, which is where I get most of my WildC.A.T.s knowledge, so take that for what you will. Not sure how tried and true it was to the original source material, but Zealot usually used these. That said, she does actually come with quite a few things here. She comes with this spear that is all kinds of gummy. More so than a vintage Motu accessory, I might add. And I do remember her using this in like one episode. I think there's like a tribe of like Amazonian warriors just like her, and they use weapons like this. And that's where she comes from, I do believe. And then she also comes with two red pieces of plastic. They're called daggers on the back of the box, but most people probably don't even have these accessories anymore, so I should probably sell them. They're probably worth a lot of money. Either way, she comes with those. And then she comes with the WildC.A.T.s communicator. Now, I don't know if all these figures are supposed to come with these, but all of mine have them. That said, I did buy a bunch of lots to get all the characters, so I may have just thrown these in with every single character, because that's what I do when I get lots of stuff. But, you know, take that for what you will. Getting her off the base here. It's a peg stand that actually works pretty well on all these guys. It's pretty tight, every single one. But let's get this right out the way. She's in like this sexy kind of pose, right? When she's not using her swords. And missed opportunity, I would have taken a little bit of creative liberty if they made this extend over the elbow so she could put her hand on her hip. That would have been really, well, sexy for the time. And unlike Alithia, she does have an ass. It's a very odd looking ass, especially when you move the hip. Oh, it's not terrible. Actually serviceable, but she does have a nice plump buttocks back there, and cleavage to boot. It's a 90s figure, so I'll cut it some slack if the boobs are a little small, but they seem a little big. Seem pretty big. Especially compared to like every other Marvel Legends female figure. That's why Siren's clogging the shelves at my local Target. At least as of the time I'm recording this anyways. But as far as articulation goes, her head can look side to side. Her ponytail can actually rotate. Decent enough face sculpt. I think the main downfall with these is they're very glossy. They're very shiny. I mean, they're made out of plastic, so, you know, take that for what you will. But even like the gargoyles and some of the Spawn stuff from this time, and the Skeleton Warriors, actually, also done by Playmates not too long before this, had some matte finishes. I think her armor being shiny is fine, but the skin tone, especially on the face, would have benefited from having a matte finish. Would have looked a little better. But, again, it's the 90s. It's whatever. Just something to note. Her shoulders can move up and down. Her gauntlets can rotate. Again, this one would be nice if it extended past the elbow. So she could do the hand on the hip bitch pose. She does have a waist swivel. There's nowhere to store any of her weapons either. I always thought she pulled her swords off her back, but you can't put them there. And then she has the useless V-cut swivel, which just does nothing. It does nothing. I don't know why any toy company would even bother. I'd rather take an ugly T-joint. At least she'd be able to sit. But instead she can spread eagle herself to Grifter, her main squeeze. I will say this leg is a little on mine, but I think there's a reason I kept this one. I think the ponytail on the other one was stuck, and it wasn't on here. So maybe at some point I'll replace Zealot with a tighter one. That said, There was a variant of this figure that had, what was it? I think she had red legs, like solid red legs all the way down to her feet. So she looked like she was wearing pants or armor or whatever, and it had a nice metallic finish to it, which I think would have looked awesome on this figure. That said, speaking of getting Zealots, I am baiting with anticipation for McFarlane to give us a Maul collect-a-build wave with Zealot, Warblade, Spartan, and Voodoo in it. That would be so freaking cool, but I don't know if they'll do that. That'd be really awesome if they did, though. Even though I know Todd's not into female figures, I would buy both of those. So getting her swords in her hands here, which can be easier said than done, to be honest with you. It's a little tricky. There we go. Which, if you don't display Zealot with the swords, it's like displaying Grifter with no guns or transformers in vehicle mode. Just kind of weird. There she is with her swords, ready to kick some Damonite ass. Which, that's the figure I want. I want a McFarlane Toys Hellspawn. And don't worry, we'll get to him. I have almost this entire WildC.A.T.s line. I even have the bullet bike somewhere. So, at some point, we will get to all of them. But bear in mind that, yeah, this is going to be a journey and a half. To say the very least. So, with that being said, that's Zealot in a nutshell. Again, I don't know how much she's going for these days. All I know is that when I was buying these, they were like $5 carded. They're really freaking cheap, dude. So with that being said, enough jibber jabbering. Let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, and since I don't have a Claiborne Moore Lady Death on hand, here is Zealot next to a couple other superhero type figures that were out around this time. We have the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider from Toy Biz and Spawn 1 from Spawn Series 1 by Todd Toys, aka McFarlane Toys. They were Todd Toys for this first wave, so that's why I say that. But as you can see, Zealot scales really well with Spawn. Not so much with Toy Biz stuff. She's a little tall for that, but you could probably fudge it anyways. She's a little taller than Ghost Rider, but I think Zealot's supposed to be a taller character anyways. I think she's supposed to be like Wonder Woman, a bit of an Amazon type, so I don't think that's too bad, but I definitely think she scales much better with Spawn figures from this time. Next up, here she is alongside her main squeeze and the only other figure that I've already taken a look at from this Playmates Toys WildC.A.T.s line, at least on this channel anyways. I'm not going to get into that, but at any rate, it is of course the Grifter, who I think is actually a little bit too big. And that may be surprising to some of you because you're like, wait, he's shorter, right? Well, yeah, but he's squatting, and if this guy was fully straightened out, take into account that Zealot pretty much is, with the exception of a very minor sidestep, he would be a lot bigger than her. So his scale is a little bit off, but since his knees are bent and he is shorter than her as of right now, I think it's okay. That said, I can't see this figure fully straightened out, so I can't confirm if my theory is correct, but it looks to me like he's a pretty big dude. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legions, Brother Mandibulus, Livid Spawn, who as usual, towers over everyone. So with that being said, time to wrap things up, some final thoughts. Overall, and much like her main squeeze, the Grifter, who I took a look at a couple of weeks ago, check that out if you haven't already, while there isn't a whole lot going on with this WildC.A.T.s line from the fine folks over at Playmates Toys, you got the whole team. And we're going to be taking a look at the whole team as Throwback Thursdays go on, but if there's one thing I can't stand about modern day action figure lines, it's not being able to complete teams. Hasbro Marvel Legends, I'm looking at you because you take forever to complete teams. Like the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, we're like one figure away from completing that team. And they still haven't given it to us yet, even though they have the parts for it. The mind boggles. So, with that being said, if you want a WildC.A.T.s collection that's pretty freaking tight and looks good on the shelf, then this line is the way to go. Because, again, I don't know when McFarlane Toys is going to give that to us. I'm hoping they do. I think a Maul collect-a-build wave is the way to go, because we'll get a Maul, Zealot, Spartan, Warblade, and Voodoo all in one shot. That's the main team. That's the core cast. That's the team I know of and remember from the 90s animated series. And while they'll probably be in their modern looks, I'll still take it. I think it's close enough. The Grifter figure looks awesome. I don't have it yet, which is kind of surprising considering how much of a fan of this team I am. I do quite like this team quite a bit. But Zealot here is another fine addition to this line. If you want to complete this team, you've got to pick her up. Her and Grifter are at least a team on their own. They do go together very well, although Grifter seems a bit large for this line. We're going to see more of that as time goes on. But yeah, I really do like this figure, and if you want her, I still think she's pretty cheap on the aftermarket. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of Throwback Thursdays. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. And side note, this may be the last Throwback Thursdays before October, which I have some very special things planned for. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. I know I am and am not, because it's going to be a lot of bustin' ass / ass bustin', if you know what I mean. But stay tuned. You'll find out more about that in the upcoming channel update for the month of September. That said, if I do post a Throwback Thursday next week, consider yourselves lucky, because that wasn't the initial plan. Okay? But with all that being said, if you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is. Especially when, do I even need to say it? I just did like 2 minutes ago. Why can't we get finished teams nowadays? Why is that so hard? McFarlane gave us all the Dark Knights metal in a year. Like, what the hell? And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.